Good morning, guys. I'm just doing a quick Wednesday warm-up. So today we're going to do a class, the intermediate's going to do a class on the hips, hence I'm wearing orange for the sacral chakra. I just wanted to warm up through, so I'm going to do quite a lot of, hopefully a few sun salutations. I haven't got that long because I've got a new camera set up. It's taken me ages to get it set up. But not to worry, not to worry. So I'm going to start with a little Chakrasana at the head of my mat. I've had to close the conservatory doors today because it's pouring down rain here on the west coast of Scotland, which is good for the garden, but not so good for the sound. So I like to explore how my back feels here in Chakrasana. Sometimes feel like the back can be a little bit mobile here. But certainly for me anyway, sacroiliac joint is a little bit mobile. So on those days when it feels like it's pulling in that sacral area of the spine, I can free my feet a little bit more. The rotation is in a different place in the back. And it allows the hips to move a little bit more with the movement as opposed to resisting the movement. Be what suits me better. So explore how it feels for you. And then I'm just going to sway back to steadiness, not stopping suddenly, but just releasing gently. And when I come back to steadiness, I'm going to roll the shoulders. I always start this way because I've got really strong upper body, which means I get a lot of stiffness in my shoulders because that's where my muscles are, I guess, more toned, bigger. And so I like to do a range of shoulder movements to free the neck and shoulders from any residual stiffness. That fuzz that forms between our layers of fascia in the body. Fuzz is the technical anatomical term. It's a little bit like Velcro. There we are. And throughout the practice, you might see me shrugging the shoulders as I just shrug out some of that, that tension that stays there for a while. So finding my way into Tadasana today because the focus is on the hips. I'm going to really focus on placing my feet. I want my toes to be spreading wide, a little lift in the arches, finding what's often called the four corners of the feet. But really what I want to find is the pad of each toe, the place where each toe joins the foot, particularly the place where the big toe and little toe join the foot, the first two corners, the outside edge of the foot, and this semicircle that comes around the heel, and just that little bit towards where the instep is, where that starts to rise away from the floor. I would like that to be firm as well. And then that central lift from the instep, finding that energy, drawing up the body. So I engage my quadriceps a little bit to raise to lift my knees towards my hips, but without locking the legs absolutely straight, because for me that's no good with hypermobility. So lifting the quadriceps, lifting in the pelvic floor, the abdominal muscles, not lifting the chest in a way that lifts the rib cage away from the abdomen. So we don't want to create a back bend here or an extension. We want to find that sort of inner lift. It's like a scooping in and lifting so that the whole body grows tall. There's length in the spine. The shoulders come back, the arms can relax, and I turn my palms a little bit more forward here, lengthening through the back of the neck. And just checking that the head is centered over the rest of the spine. I have a tendency to drop my head forward. It is not just technique, it's hereditary as well. And then I'm ready to spend a moment in Tadasana with my eyes gently closed. Finding my breath. Ready to begin my practice.
So nice soft knees in the first forward bend of the day. My neck itself doesn't feel at all stiff today, it's just the shoulders. So that's great, it's a great place to find out. Stepping the right foot back, trying to make each movement light. Opening the chest, thinking about what length I have here in the hip flexor of the right leg. How things feel today. And then exploring my plank pose. Some people get very het up about plank pose. They think that if they do it with their bottom in the air, it's not strong or perhaps not ideal. But actually, if you are not able to hold steady and stable this lengthened plank pose, a little height in the hips, if it helps you hold, not a problem at all. You can work towards plank pose like this, and you can always drop your knees to the mat before you develop the strength. We develop strength slowly. What we want to avoid in plank pose is sagging the shoulders and sagging the hips down too much. So where you create compression in the back and lose that integrity of stability. And then from here, it's knees, chest, forehead, or chin. In my case, I prefer chin. Just floating the hips to the floor, rolling the shoulder blades together, and finding that low cobra. And in the first cobra of the day, I like to find that stability through the low body, pressing the pubic bone down, engaging the backs of the muscles in the back of the legs as well as the fronts of the legs. And then coming into downward facing dog. Oh, first down dog of the day. Just delicious. Such a nice feeling to stretch out that back line of the body. I love easing through my heels, and actually I often do that in down dog even when I'm quite far through my practice, because it just feels so good. Just scooping the belly in here a little bit. This is as scooped as my belly gets. I've had 6 abdominal operations, so I'm afraid that's as good as it gets at the minute. And then just exploring, maybe rolling the hips from side to side, stretching out some of the structures, getting a touch into those larger muscles across the buttocks, the legs. And then I'm going to bounce. So I'm going to find some bounce in my knees and bounce my weight forward and backwards to find that lightness so that I can step my right foot forward really light into the forward lunge. And here, just finding that sense of stretch, but not too much. First thing in the morning, back to the forward bend. And then slowly coming up. And just opening as much as I have breath for. So if I get to the top of this movement and I've run out of breathing in space, I've finished the movement. If I've got a little bit more, I might do a little gentle opening of the front of the body. Excellent. Back to Namaste. Back to Tadasana. Ready for the left side. I've been doing yoga a while, so I can make my breath really long. I can spend a long time in these postures.
And I've always started my day with a bit of pranayama, which perhaps you don't always see because sometimes it's in bed before I get up in the morning. So if you find it hard to, more of a challenge to hold a posture while you take just one part of a breath, then allow your breath to fall in its natural rhythm when you're doing these slow, steady sun salutations. Let's bounce. 2, 3. When I come up here,
I look forward and flatten the back a little bit, and then reach the arms out to the side. Softness in the knees means I can engage the buttocks and the hamstrings to help me to lift tall before I exhale back to namaste. Got a stray hair that keeps hanging down somewhere. Hopefully that's it. So this swallow diving of the arms on the way up and the way down, what it does is it creates a little less load on this less stable part of my back. So if you're prone to being quite back bendy, if you're the sort of person who in their relaxed state would maybe have their bottom sticking out a bit and their chest sticking out a bit, then you can get a little bit of compression there, and it can be a weaker part of the body because the abdominal muscles aren't quite so strong. And then this variation creates a little less load on that point in the body because of the science of levers. So if you reach the arms forward in front of you, the load, this is a longer lever, it creates more load on the pivot point. So there we are, science lesson for the day. Let's do another sun salutation. Last chat. So here, because of the practice I'm doing today, I'm going to do a little stretching of the back of the leg. I'm keeping the front toes down, just releasing the hips towards the back heel, and then stretching forward. It's important to exercise your full range of movement, but at the same time, you don't want to load that very edge or end of the range of movement. So if you're a bendy person, you have to exercise to that edge, but you don't want to hang out there. So I could let my hips go a little bit deeper here, but I don't really want to hang out there for any length of time. And likewise, I could press this leg really, really straight. It's slightly soft in the knee. But I don't want to load that or hang out there for any length of time because it will create injury. But at the same time, it's really good to have an opportunity to use the range of movement safely. Little chaturanga on the way down here. But I don't like up dog. It doesn't suit me so well. So roll the shoulder blades together, come up into a slightly higher cobra here. And then keeping the elbows nice and bent, the shoulder blades back and down. Just explore a little sideways movement. A little torsion across the muscles in the back and the belly.
before coming back into downward facing dog. And here, finding that three-legged dog. And I can spend time, if I want to strengthen the back of the body, I can spend time just lifting and lowering this leg. And if I want to strengthen the front of the body, I can draw the leg in towards me and reach back out. This is the key to stepping the leg through this movement, drawing the knee right up into the chest. And this time,
step the foot to the front.
Here I'm going to do a little twist, keeping my right thigh really close towards my torso. So I'm working these, a little stretch on these muscles here, a little strength on the inside. There we are.
Finding my way into progressively deeper forward bends. On this side again, just finding a little bit of movement. Oh, I started with the toes up this time. Between the two legs. I want to really actively use the legs. So coming forward, pressing off the back foot. Coming backwards, pressing off the front foot. Trying not to lose the integrity of the rest of the body. So keeping the shoulders down, keeping the belly lifted. I'm going to take a slightly wider cobra pose now with cupcake fingers. It's a really good way to strengthen your hands, which is good if you're going to progress to things like hands balances and handstands. And strong hands and fingers is really important. There are all sorts of things that we do that give us strong hands. Using our hands properly in things like cat pose and downward dog will all help. Finishing with these lovely twists in the forward lunge or the low lunge. I'm afraid that's all the warm-up that I've got time for today, but it's all the warm-up I need. So I hope that you enjoy doing this practice, or maybe just joining in and making those 2 sun salutations really work for you. At the end of 2 sun salutations, you've done 8 forward bends, 4 lunges on each side. It's really, really good. Don't discount the value of just a few rounds of practice. I will do my own headstand before class if I get the chance. But namaste, guys, and see you again soon. Hopefully in the next class.